So the goal of it was to have a chance to kind of do some live. So we're going to do that on the front end. We're going to take a look at some LinkedIn best practices, maybe some things that are different. I went through the training that you all have already available and tried to pull out some things that perhaps maybe weren't touched on as much. Then there's a relatively new interview tool on LinkedIn that I'll do a demo on, because I think it's incredibly powerful to prepare for interviews. But more than that, it has these perfect questions to get answers to and to really enhance your profile and your resume. And then I know Bradley and I share the outcome of investing in curating a network and engaging in a particular way. It's stunning what can happen in a short period of time. So we'll touch on a few of those things. And then again, about 15 minutes or so from now, we'll transition into the rooms and do breakout sessions for resume review. And I would mention that you'll have a chance, many of you will have a chance to have your personal resumes reviewed, but I really believe in sideline coaching. So all of them, as they're being reviewed, you're going to learn things and be able to ask questions. So if at the end you don't have your individual resume reviewed, I am happy to have those collected, and we'll have our team look at those and give you some feedback. And I'm sharing this mostly just so that I'm not sharing the views or followers as like, look at me. It's more to say, I'm not any kind of Salesforce celebrity. There isn't any reason that I don't hold jobs. So I just wanted to share that what I've learned, I'm sharing with you. And in this, these are numbers for just under a year, and it's over 1 million views. And today it's actually like another 17 from this morning of followers. So once you get on a roll, it just kind of takes on its own energy. So I share that just to encourage you to invest the time and really know there's good outcomes that will come from investing in taking these actions. And Bradley, just, definitely tag team on this. The one thing I wanted to share around the LinkedIn profile is I view it much more like a living cover letter, that it's a way for you to share information, your personality, things that you can't put on a resume, but and keeping it up to date and adapting it and just keeping it alive. That's how I like to look at it. Frankly, I think it's important to be much more of a sales page. And coming from a sales background, I'm comfortable with that term, but I know a lot of people, not false, right? But leaning into what people are wanting to see, what they're looking for, and like, wow, this person's interesting. I'm going to check this out a little bit further.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's the beauty of LinkedIn. It's that it's not a resume, and it is living. And I think people, think, well, is it really? Like, why is it so different from a resume? And the big deal to me is that a recruiter can sure go look at your LinkedIn profile, and they can pull some things out of that. And if you do a good job, it looks nice. It's sort of like going to a big conference like Dreamforce, and maybe you're going to the vendor booths and you see all the booths set up, and a lot of them look similar. It's got a logo and there's somebody standing behind the desk, and maybe they're giving out a t-shirt and some pens or whatever. But you'll notice the ones that really stand out. They're doing something flashy, or they're doing something that really catches your attention. And to me, that's LinkedIn. You could look at 100 profiles and 90 of them are going to look very much the same. And then 10 of those are going to really pop. They're going to catch your eye. And I think that's the kind of content that we share, trying to get those banners right and profile pictures. And we'll talk a lot about, those things today. But also the living aspect is that as a recruiter, I can look at your LinkedIn profile, and then I can go look at, if you're doing things correctly, I can look at the type of information you post. I can look at how you engage with other people in a professional environment. I can see, what kind of feedback you give and how communicative you are and all these things. And so that's why it takes a resume and lifts it off the page and brings it to life. And it really showcases who you are. And I would say 90+% of the time in the modern job market, your LinkedIn profile and how you engage on LinkedIn as a platform is likely the first impression that employers are getting of you well before they ever talk to you.
Absolutely. And I would say for my background, I've been around more than, many of you. I had my LinkedIn profile for 15 years. I had less than 200,000 views, and I had about 1,200 contacts, most of who contacted me because I was sales director. They wanted something from me. Once I decided that, frankly, thank you, COVID, because I never would have taken the time. But once I embraced LinkedIn for what it is, it's, going on 11,000, connections and over 1 million views. I mean, if you approach it as a community, it is incredible. But I would say a huge mistake I see is people treat it like Wikipedia. It's like, here's all these details about me, so much information. It's not designed for the roles you want. So what I would encourage you is to really take a fresh perspective if you haven't already, and write it for the role that you want, not the roles that you've had. And even if that's, Salesforce, of course, and we'll touch on that, but even elevating within your own company, if you're not a leader, right, and you've been applying for jobs, you're going to be applying information, sharing information that's relevant to that job. But if you want to be a leader, you need to bring forward all those examples and showcase that you're a leader well before you apply. So that would be just one thing from a framework. I think that what stands out, and there's definitely many people in your community that do this, but if you want to really ignite your impact on LinkedIn, it's curating your connections, being really smart about that, curating the feed so that when you open up LinkedIn, what you're seeing is inspiring to you. It's the people you need, the information you need to have, the opportunities that are front and center, particularly when you're in a mode of career development. When you're outside of that active job search, maybe you want to, explore other things. But when you're looking, keep that really curated, play with the algorithm. I'd say your activity feed is the other thing, is to really know that you're going to be checked out in detail, and your activity feed needs to share all the information that you want to convey. And you're, the buddy that had fun, hunting last weekend, and the comments there, that if it's irrelevant or a political post or whatever, if it doesn't line up with what you'd want your employers to see, it's just not the time. Like maybe next year after you have your great job. But that activity feed recommendations is a thing that I really see kind of lacking for people. You want your recommendations to be relevant for what you want. Even if you need to go back and ask your references, your recommendations, share with them what you're looking for and get something that's more aligned to that skill set or that leader level. So that would be one thing. And then interest, and we'll show that of how you can play with that. But your interest should absolutely project what you want. And a great way to find some new ones is to look at the interests of thought leaders in our area.
Yeah, that's all spot on. And it's right. I mean, what you're playing to your audience, for me being, at the helm of Talent Stacker and trying to convey a certain message to an audience, I'm not looking for a job, right? So I'm not speaking to necessarily directly to hiring managers and recruiters and employers saying, hey, I want you to give me a job. I may be speaking to them saying, look what I'm doing for the ecosystem. And you might want to connect with me because, there's a synergy between the people coming out of Talent Stacker and the needs of your company. And then on the other side, from a sales or marketing perspective, I'm talking to people out there who may be in other careers, or they may be trying to get into Salesforce, but they're not 100% sure how to do it. So I have to look at my audience, and you need to do the same thing. You need to look at your audience and who do you want to see you and what do you want them to see when they see you? So you're trying to get their attention, but if you get their attention, but you have nothing to show them, then it's worthless, right? It's like, screaming and yelling and putting your hands in the air. And then everybody's like, what's going on? And nothing yet. Hold on. I'm working on getting that profile together, and then I'll have something for you. But you're right about curating the feed, especially once you have thousands of connections, which you will get relatively quickly if you just stay consistent. And that's not every day. and it's not multiple times a day. It's probably 2 to 3 times a week, consistently be on LinkedIn, and you're going to notice your feed starts to get rolling, your connections start to get rolling. And what you might want to do is, if you find someone like me, right, where I post a lot, I probably post at least once a day, if not twice a day. If you find that if there's people posting constantly and they're always on your feed, but it's not really serving you and it's not beneficial to you and it's just kind of noise for what you're trying to accomplish, you can unfollow. That doesn't mean, block them or disconnect from them or whatever else, but you can silence those profiles so that you're not constantly seeing that information if it's not serving you where you're at right now. And the other thing mentioned here, recommendations, those take time to get those built up, right? I mean, you might start with 1 or 2 from close connections at your current job, or maybe a previous employer, maybe someone from the Talent Stacker community, or in the Salesforce community outside of Talent Stacker, you may develop some relationships and you can get recommendations for those. And what I always do, and this is, to me, this is the core of a community, giving more than you receive. That's what makes you part of a community. So typically what I do if I'm looking to garner recommendations is I give recommendations, and I don't necessarily say, hey, give me one back. I just give these really thoughtful recommendations to other people. And it's not 100%, but I would say 30 to 50% of the time, guess what? You'll get a recommendation right back, and it'll be thoughtful. And plus, everyone you write a recommendation for, they really appreciate you and they have a newfound respect for you, and they'll be coming to you and giving to you when they have the opportunity to do that. So recommendations can be sort of a give and take relationship, and you might have to give more than you receive, but that's okay because that's what community is.
Yeah. And I would say that is something I didn't know to look for. So my current job, and I may pull up his profile to show you, but the recommendations he received were incredible. The recommendations he gave, there were more of them, and they were in every direction. So it wasn't just people that served his purpose, right? It was amazing. And so I would say, for those of you, I would never look for an employee again who was active on LinkedIn. If they're not, that's another story, but that didn't have a bit of a generous heart. If they gave no recommendations, it would at least raise a flag to me to explore that. Was this going to be somebody that would be a giving member of the team? Mm-hmm. And this is something, so for me, I think it's critical that you're very clear of what do you want a recruiter or hiring manager to think about you when they leave, and what are the things that they should remember. And that if you don't have it really clear, what are the 3 things that I want? If I sent today 10 hiring managers and recruiters to your profile, what are the 3 things that they're going to remember? And I'd ask people to give you that feedback. And it should be really clear everywhere they look, to have, 3 primary, maybe a couple that are secondary, something that's unique about you, or perhaps a special knowledge that you have, or interest or passion, but that there should be at least 3 things that, 9 out of 10 people are going to recognize about you.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. Again, it's your sales page, right? We talked about that. It's your sales page. It's what you want people to get at, what your audience is going to see. So just make sure you hone in on that. And I know a lot of times, like our core piece of just boilerplate advice in the community is sort of a 1, 2, 3 punch on and it can come from your about section, but your about section should sort of stem into the rest of, the perception that you're putting out there for your professional branding. And I always like to go heavy Salesforce. It's like 3 paragraphs, but they're both very short, or all 3 very short. And it's, paragraph 1, why I'm a Salesforce certified professional. This is what I do. This is why I'm so passionate about the ecosystem. Not just that I am passionate, but this is why I'm passionate. And this is what makes me so excited about a Salesforce career. And then number 2, I think this is the marketing person in me, that I do a second paragraph that's kind of like, outside of work, I also love Salesforce. And it's about, meetups and, different ways you can get involved in the community. So even when I'm not at work, I love, getting involved in the Salesforce community. And then that third paragraph is more about who you are as a person, what you want people to know about you. Maybe it's your hobbies or favorite sports teams or whatever else that you might connect with on a little bit different level than the professional level. And that's not perfect for everyone, but I think it's a good boilerplate idea to sort of get you thinking of those. What are those three things that you want people to take away when they leave and go, that person is, they're going to be a great fit because these are the three things that I remember when I get done checking out their profile.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Bradley, you talk about the F, right? The reading, people read in the F. So I've never heard that before. And I think that's brilliant that they're reading in that F shape, so that whatever's at the top needs to nail it. And then they'll read less and less. And I thought that was such good insight. And one of the things that people ask me all the time, well, what do I post about? Who do I follow? Where do I start? And you need to be authentic to you. So I'll say that first. None of this is to be manipulative. It needs to be authentic. But I would say a great place to start is the Salesforce values. And if you find articles, if you go to Salesforce Plus on trust, customer success, innovation, these are their primary values. And almost everything that they do around equality and sustainability is brand new. They put out incredible articles and stories on Salesforce Plus, and you can grab those videos and stories and internalize them and pull out one great thing. And so those leaders love to see that. The Salesforce corporate leaders just love it. You'll get traction with leadership if you're sharing Salesforce Corporation information, even if it doesn't get read a lot, because they notice it and they want to push it out and they need our community to share it. So I would really encourage this as a place to consider. If you line up with one of these or a couple of these, this might be table stakes for you.
Yeah. And I would say too, another great way, I think that's great advice, by the way, and it's 100% true, because I sort of have these stand-up calls with Salesforce's marketing team, and we talk about how we can, and they're always focused. The marketing team is always focused on telling stories about Salesforce success. And they love telling stories about people who have transitioned into Salesforce success. And I know Anita Smith was actually highlighted as one of those trailblazer stories. And we've had a few other people highlighted as well. But the point of it is the reason they reached out was because we were posting stories and they love these stories. And I think that's something that Talent Stacker as its own brand does really well. We share a lot of stories. We don't just say, look at this person, they landed a job. We always try to, tell a little bit of a story about it. So what I'm getting around to is that I think a lot of people feel like imposters for a lot of reasons, but one of those is, posting stuff online and having to do it 2 or 3 times a week. And it feels like, am I being legitimate to myself? And what you can do is, if you see something that we post or someone else posts and you go, you know what, I like that. And you can share their post, but add your color commentary and add how it impacted you and how you felt about it. And what I'll say is, if you get started, it's sort of like the Atomic Habits. One of the concepts in there is just starting. And if you can just get started, you'll find your comfort zone. People will start commenting, people will start messaging you and connecting with you. And all of a sudden you'll go, okay, that topic, when people commented and engaged with me on that topic, that felt like me. That was where I want to be. And you can start creating more content around those areas you feel comfortable and confident in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, I was super busy when I started this venture, and I'm a morning person. So I'll say that I don't suggest that you need to do this, but I set an alarm on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 5:30 a.m. And that was my only time. I just popped on. I commented. I had a list of 5 people that I went on, whatever they did between those days, I commented and I put something out there. And that's how it started. It was very, maybe an hour and a half a week. And that's all it took. And it's just some consistency. But so I've been a certified coach for 15 years. And what I would say is I've had the opportunity with that and my work at Supermoms is to hear a lot of secrets and hear a lot of the very vulnerable things that people don't share. And I would really encourage you to have a clear, at least a vision for now, right? It may adjust, but one of the things that I think people are trying so hard to figure out what to do on LinkedIn, and I would suggest really either starting with or adapting to something that aligns with your vision for your career, and start to find companies and people that line up with that. And you'll find, one, you love LinkedIn more because it's so relevant, and the fear will start to fade away because you're not going to get, if balance is a priority, which a lot of the moms I worked with is, they're just not going to go be a consultant with some of these, top 5 firms and travel 80% of the time. So when they no longer see those curated articles, it's like, I get, this is my community and my opportunity. So just quickly, and actually I'll go past this, I'll come back to the jobs tool really quickly and just show it to you really quick. But, what are the things that matter the most to you? Where do you feel engaged and energized? What's your definition of success? What did you dislike most in the past? And what what engages you most? And so those things, if you start to find people writing about the things you like and less of what you don't, you will find that you're going to find your people and your opportunities. That if you can identify your values, these were some of mine. It didn't do me any good. I worked for Supermoms, and that was because of COVID, and I love the passion and I do it out of my heart today. But money was a big driver for me. So that's like, there was certain things that I didn't want to pretend that wasn't. There was, but for you, it might be something really different. Like, I want stability. I wanted, but if you come up with your words and your values and you line up and pay attention and find those things, you will get all of the, people and opportunities that you need. Knowing your strengths, the industries, company types. Like, if you're not a corporate person, don't follow corporate people or corporate companies. Find entrepreneurs, or the vice versa. And our algorithms, cool. The other things is kind of these logistics, and they're, where do you spend your time? But when you're on LinkedIn, make sure that you pay attention to these things, and you will start to build the people, the opportunities, the jobs, the events, the groups that are, perfect for you. And that's, then I think this comes back to it, is just polishing things up. If you guys haven't turned off the people also viewed, I'd recommend that you do that, because that's showing your competition right on the side of your LinkedIn profile. If you turn it off, it goes to influencers. So that's like one little thing. And then the other thing is, I know, and you guys do a brilliant job of branding, and those people, especially that have jobs, this idea of having the branded with the characters and all that, if that's not your company or your job, that can be risky. So I wanted to share, this is public information, but Salesforce has a color palette, and they have their hues for both a natural and a vibrant. You can sort of go with the Salesforce brand and theme by things that you post or headers that aren't so overtly Salesforce, for those of you who don't need to do that. So that was a tip that was shared with me that I thought was really, really helpful. So yeah. So, and then we'll hop off when we're live and talk about engagement, but I did want to let you know, I have a top 50 influencer list that actually connects to all the people they're following and gives a lot of insight. So I have a gift code that I'll give Bradley, and you guys can have it just for free. It links directly to all of their pages, who they follow. It took a long time to put together. And I think you'll love it. And the other one thing I'd say is now they have the notification bell, which is brand new, and people aren't using it. So you'll start to see certain people are like, how are they always commenting on these great posts from people around the world? It's because my phone tells me to hop on Ben's post this morning. And then if you're in that first few, all of the people who post after you see your name and picture. So I'd encourage you to do that too. So I wasn't aware of this until very recently. I think it's incredible. So do any of you know that you can actually record yourself doing interview questions on LinkedIn? It's the coolest thing. So, okay. Now, so it's under the job section right here. It's interview prep. The reason I'm bringing it up now is, and I'm actually going to do a live on Thursday about it. We can spend a little more time, but it brings up, so there's these common questions, there's 26 of them. If you can answer these questions, you have your profile and your resume done in many ways. There's categories. So there's account management, there's business analyst, there's these really project manager, there's amazing questions. And then what you'll see, so here's tell me about yourself, is one, like this is everything, right? Your about section, follow the F philosophy that Talent Stacker teaches, but this is right here. There's sample answers. There's really, I love this one from a very early age. I've been a problem solver. I've been the type of person who does this, that shows like you were born to do this job. But what you can do here is you practice. So you can record or write, but recording's great. So I'm just going to quickly show you what this, oops, let's see. Why is that?
It might be taken over by Zoom at the moment.
Oh, okay. So let me tell you what it does. Oh, actually, here, I'll show you one of these. These are ugly. I was doing this just to show, I was sending this to Bradley, but here's a prior one. And then what it does is it gives you, you record your answer. It tells you how many words a minute. So it has AI and it gives the pitch variation. So it's telling me you have good pitch variation. And then I was able to send Bradley a copy of this and request feedback. And you can do this with any connections and you can do it for any questions. So you can send this between each other. You guys can practice, get feedback. You can send it to, you know, colleague, anyone you want. So I thought that was just an incredible, incredible tool. And I would really encourage you to play with it. And I would say the questions and answers, it's sort of every question I could have ever wanted to have known to think about and practice. And you get to see yourself, and it's a little hard, but you'll get really used to, okay, how did I make my point? Did I get across those few things? So.
All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Great. All right, perfect. So I welcome feedback, but what I typically do when I look at a profile is I try to put out of my head all the advice I typically give because I just want to hit it as a third party who's coming across your profile and trying to get a quick glance at what I'm seeing. And I'll say personally, I try not to be judgmental. And I think that's because I've worked with so many different people now that I realize that people are just so different and that doesn't define their success. However, when you're working with someone who, you know, maybe is an employer who's hiring their third Salesforce talent, you know, and they're just not used to working with a lot of different people, they may have different stereotypes about, well, tech people look like this and tech people do this kind of thing. And people who are successful, they talk like this. So just keep that in mind, that you do want to walk that line of being yourself, but also make sure that you are targeting your audience. All right. So jumping in here, it's definitely really Salesforce heavy. I like the background. It's got a lot of pop and it calls out that you're 2X certified. So those are the things I'm seeing immediately, is that it does scream Salesforce and I see that you're 2X certified. If it were me doing a profile picture on this one, I would probably get it in a little bit more professional setting. I think this is a good placeholder, in my opinion. It looks good. It's crisp, which is important. You don't want it all blurred out. But I might get myself in a little bit more professional environment. And then a lot of times what I'll do is use Canva or a tool like Snappa. And I might put maybe a quick picture of myself instead of, the Salesforce, up here with the DJ booth, which is totally fine if it's going to give character to sort of who you are. But sometimes I might replace something like that or the Salesforce logo because you're seeing it in the certifications already. I might replace some of that with another maybe picture of yourself in a more casual environment. But you'll see I do that a lot. And that's sort of my personal style, is I like to have a very professional picture as my profile photo, and then a more casual picture might be embedded in the LinkedIn banner at the top. The other thing I like to do in my LinkedIn banner is use it as that billboard, right? And you're doing a lot of great things in this one, But certified Salesforce administrator to me is redundant because we can see that from these certification logos right here. So I might use that real estate, that screen real estate, to hit them with another core piece, because we just talked about how we want them to walk away remembering maybe 3 very specific things about us. And that's a great opportunity to use that screen real estate to hit them with 1, 2, or maybe even 3 of those really major bullets, because you'll notice that the first thing I saw when I looked at this profile, my eyes are not drawn to this text or any of this text. My eyes are drawn to these very colorful, vivid, bright pictures. So you got my attention. Now that you have my attention, do something with it, right? It's like we talked about a moment ago. You're screaming and yelling, and you're throwing your hands in the air, and then what do I see? So when I see it, I see, okay, you're certified and you seem to have a sort of a vibrant, fun personality. Is that what you want me to remember when I leave your profile? Did you have a vibrant personality and you're 2X certified? If so, great. If there's something more you want to tell me, make sure you hit it up here or in some way draw it, because we love Instagram, we love Twitter, we love TikTok, and there's a reason. It's bright, it's quick, it's got a lot of color, and our eyes are drawn to this. We may not even see this other. It's so gray down here, and you have no control over that. So you got to hit us with that really impactful 1, 2, 3 content right there. Now, if you grab me right here, if you get my attention and I go, okay, wow, really good candidate, 2X certified, told me some great stuff about themselves. Now I'm going to come down and I'm probably going to be drawn. I might get hooked by your featured section because, once again, what do you know? It's got imagery. I can see things. So I come down to your featured section, and once again, I'm getting hit with redundancy, right? We're certified, and I see your certifications again. And it's good. I mean, maybe if I missed it up top, and I'll say one of the things I personally notice is the number of comments and reactions you have on these featured posts. That tells me that immediately I know you're engaged with the community, because you're getting 85 comments when you get certified or 250 reactions when you get certified. That tells me you're engaged with the community. And that's a big part of what I'm looking for. So for me, I'm going to jump back up to your, if I'm a recruiter, I might actually be okay with this and this, and come straight to your experience now, because I'm ready to get into the nitty gritty. Like, what experience do you have? First thing I'm noticing, business systems administrator sounds like it could be a relatable role. It could be applicable. There could be some transferable things about this profile, but now I have no idea because there's no detail, even a one-liner or 2 to 3 quick bullets to tell me what's going on here. So now it's left to my imagination. I'm not a very imaginative person. So I go, okay, all right, well, let's see what was happening maybe, for those last 11 years, 3/4 studio. So if you can, if they have a logo, they may not have a logo, but if they have a logo, great to find that company profile that has one, because it just looks, you can see how nice this looks and how nice this looks. It just adds a little more clarity. And then it starts looking very templated. Sometimes you can't control that, but that's okay. Now, when I look at this, a lot of times, if I'm a recruiter, once again, I might look at this and go co-owner and write it off, because now you can say whatever you want, right? And it was 11 years and you can just say whatever you want about yourself because there's no way to validate it. So I might even chop this and leave managing director, graphic designer, and leave it alone and just let that be 11 years, 9 months, because I'm not immediately going to say, oh, well, I'm going to write that off because it's co-owner. So what is that? And if you really are co-owner, then I would see if you can have some influence on getting that company logo updated so that it has a nice, pop of color. And then down here, we've got to be pulling in our Salesforce keywords, and those are in the LinkedIn branding module. So we've got to hit those keywords, not only for SEO, like literally SEO when people are searching for profiles related to Salesforce, but you might be able to say words like streamline processes, built reports and analytics for these things, improved efficiency by 200% for the XYZ department. And you always want to be honest. And the truth is, you very likely can be 100% honest and use some keywords that draw attention. And we need to do the same thing up here. So if we can get these 3 right here, you can go back to these if you want. I don't think there's a problem with having them there. They're not necessary, in my opinion, because we've gone back over 11 years at this point. So if you have these three strong, in my opinion, and they are really hitting hard, then at that point, I've pretty well got what I need. I'm seeing certifications again for the third time. Totally fine, because I'm kind of down at the bottom. I am noticing that no one's really endorsed us for skills. No one, you don't have any very specific interests that I can see quickly. So I might work on, just communicating with some people. Again, just like recommendations I mentioned earlier, one of the best way to get endorsements is to endorse other people. One of the best way to get recommendations is to recommend other people. And just make sure your top three skills are at the top, because I see Salesforce, but I don't see any other skills. So we could do Salesforce, Lightning, flows, whatever those hot topics are. If you're into development, might be Apex. If you're not, you're probably focused on flows and maybe declarative automations or something along those lines. So that would be my major feedback. Honestly, as a recruiter, I'm probably not even going to get in on this, but if I do, I'm definitely reading in that F style, right? So I'm going long on the top, and you might get me to read a line and a half of this. So I might get to here. This one, I'm probably going to come across to maybe here. And then I may not even read this, maybe just a little short subset of it. But so you've got to attack me right here. And if it's engaging enough, I'll read the rest. But if I'm not in love with it and it doesn't feel like I'm getting something out of it, then I'm going to stop and I'm going to scroll maybe for another second. But if I get here and I don't love the pop that I'm seeing up here, then I'm just going to hit back and go to the next one. Or as mentioned before, I might look for those people also viewed, or, people you may know over here, and I might see if there's anything interesting. But likely, if I'm a recruiter and I'm using LinkedIn for recruiting, I'm going to go back to my search results and see who's next. If I'm not hooked right here, which will pull me down to here and here. So that's really the strategy. Think like the recruiter and try to hit them and keep them on your page. Any feedback you would want to give on this one, or?
Yeah, I think we just like maybe a couple little things so we have time to do another one or two. Right next to the in box under your certifications, that bell, that's what I was referencing. So if you click on that, anytime someone does a new post, you're going to see it and get a notification. So you can hop over and comment or engage right away, and then everyone else will see it. I think and this is, I guess it's an opinion. I think that often recruiters and hiring managers like to have people who are working or busy with projects. And so sometimes I think making it kind of screaming, like ready to leverage Salesforce for your company, it, especially when you're working, may just not be as useful to you as like, oh, they're working, you can use it. That's just a one thought to think of. And I think there's been a lot of research around photos. And if you can make it primarily your face and the top of your shoulders straight on, or a slight smile and your eyes looking directly into the camera so they can see your eyes, you rate much higher on the trust factor. And when you're getting recruited, there's the know, like, and trust factor, and everything you can do to help with that is useful. So just a general feedback.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that is a great point that I know for a fact we haven't touched on it in the program, that if you're doing something even roughly applicable at your current job, then yeah, that's a great thing to call out, like currently doing this, or, an expert in this particular area. Those are great things to call out. Or if you have 10 years experience, and especially, a lot of people know that health cloud is trending. And if you could say 10 years experience in healthcare, then those are things that can really draw attention. All right. So I grabbed the next LinkedIn link here. So, all right. I'm hoping this isn't loading, Leslie.
I had a picture in there.
It's because you're not connected.
Okay.
You have it so that the public can't see your picture.
All right. See.
Oh, it's it's my second one. Maybe that's why. Okay.
Okay. All right. So obviously, I think everyone and if you accept me, just let me know, and I'll
of course
I'll refresh it. If you choose to accept me, I'll refresh this so we can see it as is. So yeah, I'm all right with it. Up to this point, I will say that This is the original Talent Stacker background that we used to promote. I still think it looks a lot better than nothing, or a city skyline or something like that. And I think what it does well is, once again, this gives you room for those 3 bullet points, and you may want to take the time. I mean, I would advise that you take the time to customize these bullet points to your liking, right? So this is a really good framework. Okay, perfect. I'll refresh and we'll see if that fixes it. All right, that's all right. We won't spend too much time on that. We all know we need a profile photo. So we come through. I would take some time and consider, Canva is totally free, Canva. You can get that for free, and you can grab those backgrounds that we have, and you can put anything you want in here. So it might be a little bit heavier hit with the background that you have, especially here. I think somebody is not muted, if you wouldn't mind just checking, but a Fortune 500 company, financial services, this is huge. Financial services cloud is massive right now, just like healthcare.
And I can't put my company in there because I'm so petrified of, somebody, there's heavily recruited in that area. So I'm busy blocking people.
I'm busy blocking people.
I've got about 300 people blocked now, but yeah. So that's kind of.
What would be your advice there? I would be interested to hear your advice on when people are transitioning from another career and they're not able to use that old LinkedIn profile because they don't want to doctor it up. I mean, how do you make either the cutover, or how do you spin up a new profile without, getting too involved with what you're up to today?
Yeah. Yep. Well, 2 things. One, Leslie, I'm happy to spend some time one-off with you if you'd like, but I think it's so important to find a path to leverage your network. And so having a separate profile that you have to balance, your value is your financial services network. Because there is gold in those relationships, unless you want to get completely away from that with your Salesforce career. But those are the people that you have relationships. So obviously you can't brand yourself Salesforce overtly, but there's some really smart ways to do that. But I would really, and I did the same thing. So I didn't know, I knew one person in Salesforce world and I was scared to death. And I wish I could go back and completely take a different route, which is find a way to sort of go with the community, find things that are Salesforce related that are in the financial services, where you can start, creating posts and sharing things that are still in your space that just makes you look like a very forward-thinking professional. That in the financial services area, you can make it so there's other, not just Salesforce, but other tools and resources, events, so you can kind of dilute it. But people will know, like your network that are looking for Salesforce professionals, they're going to go find you where you are now, and they're not going to see what they need. You kind of are in a gold mine situation. Yeah. Yeah, that would be.
So you're saying on my original LinkedIn profile, do that? Just be a little more vague with all of that. Okay.
I would highly recommend that you give some strategic thought of not having a second profile, but really using your.
It's just totally stressing me out, the whole second thing. And
yeah, and I'd be happy to chat with you.
Can you look this up and see if you can find me? I mean, this is really too much.
Your value is honestly it's your history and who you know. Like and lots of people are learning Salesforce, but not very many people have your financial professional background. And so that combination is where the magic is, and will get you paid at a much higher level than being a lower experience level in Salesforce. Your professional background is going to allow you to jump through some of the stages for the right opportunities.
Oh, okay. And we did the rollout with Salesforce, so that was kind of interesting to be on the front end of that as a user. So
yeah, there's really good ways to bring that forward and to share stories because you rolled it out. So what are you learning? Like share that. Like this was a really interesting process being part of rolling out Salesforce in our organization. And what I'm seeing is this outcome, that outcome, or, ooh, this was kind of a pain point. If we could do it again, we might do this. So now you're a thought leader instead of somebody trying to brand themselves as new in the Salesforce space.
Interesting.
You're somebody that's brought Salesforce in, and you can now share the stories, obviously not proprietary, right, to your company, but you now are like, that's what your competition wants, is they want someone who's been there and done that. And now I'm going to hire them, rather than somebody who knows Salesforce, but they don't know our business.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. So I don't need to stress over this anymore. The second one.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying.
No.
That would be my strong recommendation.
I think that's stressful. It's definitely great advice. And I would say that advice carries over to a lot of people transitioning, because most people are transitioning from something else. And I think especially when we look at, some people may not have, most people are not going to have used Salesforce at their company. I think that's an easy win, because if your company comes asking, why are you, it seems like you're talking about Salesforce, it's like, of course I'm talking about Salesforce. We just did that implementation. It was incredible. And I learned so much. And actually I got hooked because I saw the Super Bowl commercial, or I was watching the Olympics and I kept seeing it. And I thought, I'm going to go toy around with what this Salesforce thing is. And I honestly think those two promotional ads give everyone a great excuse to be talking about Salesforce now. It's not like you tripped and fell and like, hey, what are you doing over there in the background? It's like, hey, I saw this really cool tool that I saw other professionals talking about. And for a lot of people out there, if you need an excuse to be using Salesforce, or talking about Salesforce, a lot of times you may have tasks at work in your current job, and all you're going to do is show passion and an ability to have excellence by going out and spinning up a Salesforce playground, learning a couple of things. And you might even be able to say, hey, look, I'm checking out Salesforce because I was actually looking at streamlining the job I do by using a Salesforce dev org or using a Salesforce playground. And I was tracking some of my tasks in there because it makes it easier to do my job. And then if you ever get called out for why are you doing this, you can actually demo them, look how amazing this is. And we've had people do that and actually talk their companies into implementing Salesforce. Usually they don't get called out. I think that's one of those black swan events that we all worry might happen, but it just never happens. But it's nice to have a little justification behind you if that situation does come up. So
okay.
Yeah, I think, but if you have financial services, if you have healthcare, if you have a nonprofit background, an education background, a lot of those backgrounds are, especially if you've been in sales, or you've been in support, or there's so many transitional skills from those that align perfectly with Salesforce. And it's, if you need an excuse why you're talking about Salesforce all of a sudden, I heard that, Salesforce was really amazing for healthcare workers or financial services workers. And I saw it on the Super Bowl commercial and it piqued my interest. So now I'm kind of hanging out doing that as a little hobby on the side. Awesome. And if anything, they should just see you're pretty fantastic for learning new professional skills on the side of your day job. So
I wanted to ask, because I've always wondered. So I've used the traditional resume, and I was really old school, and I stick to that. But then now there's this thing, a lot of people are starting to recommend the pretty ones that you can make on Canva. So I have two. One I'm using for small businesses, and then the traditional for recruiters and bigger companies. But I'm not really sure if I should just fully switch over to the pretty one or still stick to the traditional.
And my recommendation is to have one that fits well with the ATS systems, with recruiters. But what I've done, and I think works well, is while you're in an interview, or if you're meeting with someone in person, or when you're starting to be able to share, I think those beautiful, I love those, and I think they're great to have, but it does not work well with ATS systems or recruiters. And I know Garrett, those of you who are with Garrett, he's so great, but he likes all of his resumes to look the same, so he can give the hiring manager, here's a stack, and they can flip through and they know what to expect. When he sends a resume, it's going to look a certain way, it's going to be a certain way. And then it's his ability to share the story about that candidate and what makes them unique. So I would definitely consider that. If it, done is better than, perfect. So I would say get one done and then consider perfecting one for those ATS systems, the HR process, the recruiters, but definitely consider one that you might customize a bit for individual interviews and the people that you're interviewing with, that has a look and feel that might bring more of your talents in that way. Say, for those of you that are going through this process, I would also just say, in being able to engage with recruiters in a way, watch their posts and share their posts without, contacting them or sending them DMs. Their whole goal when they have opportunities is to get it out in the community. And so you may not be qualified at all for a particular job. Maybe they're looking for a senior developer. Share it and just say, hey, network, wanted to share this with you. So-and-so's looking for, tag them, sharing, looking for a senior developer. That's how I made my friends in the recruiter world, honestly, was sharing they didn't get much traction because shared posts really don't, but that person got to know me. And over a month, I might share, 3-4 of their posts. And now we're friends because I'm helping them with something that they need. So that's one thing I'd really encourage you, is to just start finding out who they are, follow them. I wouldn't even send them a connection request. They get so many. Let them see your name and face. So the more you can kind of, they start to feel like you're in the crowd, right? That you're in their community. And, that's how Bradley and I got to know each other, right? Was over time, I just really appreciated the work that was happening in the community. And I shared a few things. He sent me a DM like, hey, thanks so much for looking out. I find jobs that are more junior. And I didn't ask anything of him. Someday I will, but not for a long time, right? Like, you give and build community, and he could ask, a lot, and I would be happy to do it. So that would be my recommendation, especially before you need it.